want to talk to you today about a 300-year-old book. It's over 300. It's like probably 330-something years by now, okay? It's called The Pilgrims Progress. It's by John Bunyan, and it's like a similitude of a dream, okay? And it is so important. It's a 6-hour audiobook that I'm trying to condense for you guys into something less than 6 hours, because I know that, you know, the average working person does not have 6 hours, okay? But you need to hear this, okay? It is a very quaint story about a man named Christian, and he is going on a journey from the city of destruction, and he's trying to get to the narrow gate to get to the celestial city. Okay, so the book starts off, I don't have the book, I listen to the book, and, you know, I'm scribbling sometimes in the dark to try to get these notes to you, so bear with me, but, because you're gonna love it, okay? It starts off with this man, he's raggedy, dressed in rags, looking away from his house. He's crying, he's reading. He went back in the house, spoke to his wife about this burden on his back. He said, the city's in trouble, it's going to be destroyed, and they thought he was nuts. They were harsh with him. He withdrew from them. He's crying, he's praying, he's reading. When he met the first person he met is called Evangelist. Now, this man's journey on this path has him meeting a couple different people. He meets, and they're all adjectives, which is the cutest thing. He meets evangelist, he meets goodwill, he meets patience, he meets passion, he meets worldly wise man, he meets hypocrisy, who was traveling with formalist. He met mistrust and timorous. He meets discretion. He met faithful, hopeful. He meets Apollyon. He meets simple. He meets slothful. He meets presumptuous. He meets a giant despair and his wife. He meets charity, piety, prudence. Okay, so anyway, the first person we're going to get to all that, but the first person he meets is Evangelist, okay? And so Evangelist gave him a scroll and told him, flee from the wrath of the city. And he pointed him towards the narrow gate. All right, and the first people that he met was a man named Obstinate and Pliable, okay? And they called him a fool, they mocked him, they chased after him, they tried to get him to go back to the city of destruction. The one even said, hey buddy, do you think you're going to forsake all this comfort? You want us to go with you? And he said, look, I am going to seek better inheritance, something forever. And, you know, they called him a fool. Obstinate ended up turning back to go back to the city of destruction, but Pliable did go with Christian, and they were heading on when the two of them fell into the swamp of despond. They fell into this bog. They were filthy. They almost got choked out. While they were in this swamp of despond, a man named Help showed up. And Christian said, look, a man named Evangelist sent me this way. And Help said, well, this is a trap that you've fallen in. Look for steps. There are steps in the trap. This is a trap, the swamp of despond. It's not going to go away. The king told the men to fix this ground, this patch of ground. But still, it is the swamp of despond, and it's going to remain there. But there are steps in the middle of the swamp. So Pliable got out and went home. Christian never saw him again. Christian was left alone in the swamp. Meanwhile, Pliable did go home. Some people thought he was smart to do that. Others thought that he gave up, and they were ashamed and they mocked him, but he did gain some more courage. Anyway, so Christian is in the swamp all by himself, and he got himself out all by himself. And the next person he meets is worldly wise man, And this was in the town of Carnal Policy. It was a large town. The worldly wise man asked him, "Where are you going, buddy?" And Christian said that evangelist sent me this way. I'm trying to get rid of this burden on my back. And Christian was the talk of the town that he left, because he left the city of destruction. And this worldly wise man questioned him and said, who told you to come this way? The worldly wise man was even mad that he was going that way. Christian said that he needed to get rid of this burden. He just had no pleasure in his life. He said he said he had a family, but he was on the journey alone. And the worldly wise man said, "Look, buddy, the way you're going is wearisome. It's painful. There's dragons, nakedness. There's hunger. There's swords. There's lions, darkness, death." Worldly wise man was just pissed off that he was going. He says there's pits, pitfalls, deep holes, shelving, visions of a mangled blood. And Christian said, "Look, buddy, evangelist told me to go this way to get deliverance from this burden." And worldly wise man said, "Well, where did you get this burden?" And Christian said he saw it in the book. And worldly wise man called him weak. The worldly wise man offers to release dude's burden, offers him safety, friendship, happiness, ease, joy, the benefits. He's a way out from this burden. He says, "This is the deal. We'll offer you a house in Morality Village." There's many vacant houses in that village of Morality at a reasonable rate in a fashionable society. He says you get to Morality Village by going through Mr. Legality. He says Mr. Legality can help cleanse the burden, remove it. And he would also help others that are crazy because of the burden. Crazed because of the burden. So Mr. Worldly Wise Man points to the way to Mr. Legality's house, and it was very steep and really steep. Christian thought it was going to fall on him, and he got scared. He did not want to go up that way. So now he's standing there, and he meets Evangelist again, who points him back to the narrow way and Christian explains, this worldly wise man did offer an easy way to lift the burdens in the land of morality. Said he looked like a gentleman, but he beheld dreadful things. He said he beheld dreadful things. The evangelist said, "Don't look back, just keep going. Sins can be forgiven. Stop doubting and believe." It says there's 3 things you need to abhor about Mr. Worldly Wise Man. 1 was him turning you off the right path by your own consent. You consented to false guidance. 2, you need to abhor that his laboring to render the cross odious to you, preferring it over jewels. And 3, you should be very mad about him setting your feet towards death, towards the covenant of death, the old covenant. Okay, and he said that just hate that you hearken to his advice. Abhor false doctrine that leads to death. Consider whom he he sent you to, Mr. Legality. He's the son of a bondwoman in bondage to the law. Mount Sinai is that mountain that you thought was going to fall on you. You can't be made free by people in bondage. Worldly wise man is a liar. No one's ever been freed of their burden by Mr. Legality. Mr. Legality is a cheat, false counsel, and his son is a hypocrite. Their whole desire is to turn you out of the right way. All who rely on the law is accursed. It said, the evangelist said, keep going, you're still going to be received at the gate. Christian recommitted himself to going. He didn't even feel safe until he got back on that narrow path, which is dangerous, some people said. He didn't even feel safe until he got on the dangerous path. He was not going to heed any more worldly advice. So he went on. He says, he got to the gate and he knocked. Goodwill answered. Goodwill let him in. As he was stepping in, Goodwill yanked his clothing or yanked him back, and the dude said, "What's up?" And he said, "Look, a short distance from here is a palace, the palace of Beelzebub, and him and his minions shoot arrows of death." He said, "Look, buddy, evangelist said that you were gonna tell me something." He said, "The door's open." He said, and then it was like a little interrogation. He said, "How did you get here?" He said, "The evangelist sent me." He said, "Other people tried to get me to stay back in the city." He says, "How did you get here alone?" He said, "My neighbors didn't see the danger that he saw." He said, "Does anybody know you're here?" He says, "Yes, my wife, my children." "Anybody follow you?" He said, "Well, Pliable was with me for a little while, but he said, "Where's Pliable now?" He said, "He got out of the swamp of despond." Goodwill said, poor Pliable. Worldly wise man is a liar, and Mr. Legality is a cheat. That whole Legality mountain has been the death of many. And, because Goodwill said, poor Pliable for going back. And Christian said, "Look, I too turned the wrong way and followed after that worldly wise man for a minute, until I thought that mountain was going to fall on my head." So anyway, Christian was thankful for the evangelist again, and Goodwill said, "All right, well, look, welcome, I guess. The insincere are refused entry. I'm going to show you the way," and he points to the narrow, straight way that's built by the prophets, built by Christ. He warns that there are many side paths, but they are crooked. Christian said, "Can you help me with this burden?" He needed help removing it. Goodwill said, "Take the burden to deliverance, and it will fall off your back all by itself." And the next, so Christian goes on his way, and next one he meets is the house of the interpreter, who is portrayed as an emblem of the Holy Spirit. And he knocks again, and I said, "Who's there?" He said, "I'm a traveler. Goodwill sent me here." And the servant called for the master, who came and said to the door, "What do you want?" He says, "I'm coming from the city of destruction. I'm going to the celestial city. I'm seeking information. Goodwill sent me for a lesson." So they went in and they showed him some art. Christian saw a picture. It was a picture of a man with a book, his eyes up to heaven. He had a crown. The world was behind his back, like as a symbol of turning his back on worldly things. And the interpreter said, "This is a symbol of a man who is 1 in 1,000. He begets children and nurses them." A man. I thought that was so weird. Anyway, this man's work is to understand difficult things and plead with men. So anyway, then it shows them something else. The interpreter took him to another place, took him to a dusty palace. And then he called for somebody to come sweep it, and they were sweeping, just like that. Anyway, dirt was swirling all around the room, and then a maiden came and sprinkled water, which cleaned it. It was a symbol. It says that dirty parlor, dusty parlor, was the heart of the man, never cleaned. He says the law begins to sweep, and the gospel's the water that cleans it. Okay, they took him to another place, and then they came to two younger children, 2 boys, and they had a guardian. The younger boy's name was Patience. The older boy's name was Passion. They had a guardian that was making them wait. Passion was discontented about it. Passion wanted it now. And it's a symbol of the people of this world, which ends them in rags. Whereas Patience was quiet and was the best wisdom. Patience had the last laugh at Passion. It was like a parallel to the story of Lazarus, where the rich guy was in flames and the poor was at dinner. Said the 2 lads, a symbol of this world and of the world to come, if you believe in that. Okay, and then the interpreter took Christian to a bonfire. Okay, and then he said the fire is a work of grace in the heart, but the devil tries to put it out. The interpreter took him around the back of the fire, where he saw a secret man throwing oil on the fire. This is Christ. Oil is oil of his grace, fuels fire in the heart. Then the interpreter took him to a stately palace, beautiful to behold. He saw walking on top of the palace, there was people wearing gold. There was men in armor guarding the door, and there was a man writing down names of people coming in. Then there was a battle at the door. There was a fight at the door, and somebody busted through the door and got in. And then the people on the inside, they were yelling, "Come in, come in." And then once they got in, everybody's wearing the same clothes. You guess you couldn't tell who's who. Then the interpreter led him to another vision. He saw a dark room. He saw a man in a cage, and it was called the Cage of Despair. He was sad. He was locked up. He couldn't get out. Turns out it was a professor in despair. Christian said, "How'd you get in here?" He said, "I stopped being serious. I provoked God. I scorned Jesus. I went after lusts and profits, and it just bit him. The interpreter did give him hope. Guys, did I mention I'm reading from notes? Because I don't have this 300-year-old book. It was an audiobook that 6 hours trying to get down to one. Anyway, I don't know which came first, but it probably doesn't matter for as long as you get the gist of it. Christian, let's see, took him to another vision of a man getting out of a bed, and he was trembling. Oh, before that, he definitely said, remember the misery of the professor. Okay, and then he saw a vision of a man getting out of bed, trembling. The man was trembling because he had a dream that the heaven turned black. The clouds were driven violently. There was a man on the clouds, flaming fire. He was coming to judge. The dead arose from the grave because he had seen a fenced wall, or saw a highway with a fenced wall called Salvation. And then it was a hill with a cross, and at the bottom of the hill was a sepulcher. And as soon as Christian saw the cross and got there, his burden fell off at the cross. The burden fell into the sepulcher. After the dead, this vision of this trembling man, dead rose from the grave. Some of the dead did, look up, but some of them were hiding. A book was opened. There was great distance between the judge and those prisoners. The ground opened up. A pit of fire opened up. There was smoke and noise coming out of it. He said, gather the wheat in the barn. The trembling man woke up and said he was scared that he was under judgment and left behind and get swallowed up by the pit of hell. Okay, and then another vision. He saw 3 shining men, and they said peace. They each gave him something. They each said something to him. One said, your sins are forgiven. One gave him new clothes, and the other gave him a scroll. The shiny ones left. He kept going. Then he showed up another vision. This was 3 men in chains. This is in a valley. There was 3 men, one named Simple, one named Sloth, one named Presumption. Simple saw no danger. Slothful needed more sleep, and Presumption said, we don't even need your help. And Christian just kept going. He tried to wake him up. He said, the prowler is going to devour you. And then he saw another vision. 2 men came tumbling over the wall on the left side. And those 2 names, they were traveling together. It was Hypocrisy and Formalist. And they came in through a back door or something. They said, Christian said, how did you get here? He said, well, we were born in the land of vain glory. And Christian's like, well, why didn't you just enter in at the gate? And he said, they said, Hypocrisy and Formalist, that it was their custom to climb over the wall. They had a 1,000-year tradition that it would be doubtful that it was even legal. because Christian said, yeah, these are like trespassers. Anybody doesn't come in through the gates, a thief and a robber. They said, how does it matter how we get in here? We're all here now. And Christian said, oh yeah, I said, you guys are already counted as thieves. And they told Christian just to mind his own business, pay attention to his own way. So Christian said, well, the only difference, that they felt between them and Christian was that coat that was given by the Lord. And hypocrisy and formalists laughed at him, and Christian would just no longer talk to formalists and hypocrisy. And, they were laughing, I guess, about that coat. And Christian said that he only had rags, and they gave him the coat. Anyway, Christian was left alone again. And he was reading the scroll that the shiny people gave him. And next thing you know, he arrived at the Hill of Difficulty, which had a spring at the bottom of it. Christian jumped up. He went to the top of the hill. There was paths, I guess going up. To the left was a path called Danger, and it led to a forest. And then on the right was a road called Destruction. It led to a field with pits, and then up the narrow way was very steep. He said he was crawling at the top of it to get up there. He did stop and get refreshed, but he did drop his scroll, I guess, when he took a little nap, and then he made it to the top of the hill without it. But he didn't know. At the top of the hill, he met Mistrust and Timorous. They were running down the hill the wrong way, the opposite way. And Christian's like, yo, what's up? And he said that there was lions chasing them. And then Christian couldn't find his little scroll map, so he didn't know what to do. He went back to look for it. So he did find it, but he arrived late at this palace called Beautiful, which a porter met him named Watchman. There was 2 lions in the way, but this place was built for the relief of pilgrims. Christian wanted to spend the night. He said, if the maiden's discretion. All right. There's more to this book, so this is just going to be part 1.